ActionFigureResource.com. Yesterday's toys, today's treasures.
Okay, and today I am reviewing the Black Series Star Wars Han Solo from The Force Awakens. Now, the first Han that was released was the young Han from the original Star Wars, and I kind of wish I'd gotten that way back in the day because it's hard to find now. This is a great figure. He's got ball-jointed shoulders, which have got great flexibility, nice stiff elbows, and swivel wrists. The hands are slightly stretchy so that you can accommodate blasters and other weapons. Nice stiff double-jointed knees, ever so slightly pivoting and hinged ankles. He's got an ever so slightly movable midriff section that's just above the waist, sort of around about the stomach area, but it still doesn't really allow him to completely turn left and right. Really nicely detailed molded gun belt. It's an excellent paint finish around the front and back buckles in particular. And there's a split-cut swivel in the mid-thigh around about the top to allow him to change his stance slightly, which is very useful for posing him. The jacket is made of a sort of a flexible-ish rubber, again similar to Captain Phasma's cape. I probably would have liked it to be a bit more rubbery and a bit more flexible, feel a bit more like material and less like hard-molded plastic. It's got a bit of give to it, but it feels quite stiff. The lightness in his face is pretty excellent. He's got that kind of... he's wearing an expression that Han wears in the movie quite a lot. He's a little more humble than he was in Empire. And considering all the horrible things that have happened in between Jedi and Force Awakens, you'd completely understand why. There's a sadness to his eyes, and it really, really looks like Harrison Ford, especially if you turn it around, the angles on the face. Not a massive fan of the way his hair hovers over the neck hinge. It makes it very obvious this is an action figure. It's possible some maybe sort of hanging hair might have covered that up a bit more. But it's a very sort of a hard cut. There's a little bit of mist paint around the fringe as well. It's flesh coloured on his hair, which is grotesque. But if you turn him to the left, you can't spot that. So always keep him pointing left. Unless your version has paint problems on the right. He has a really nicely detailed blaster. I love the little tiny golden nodule in the middle of the wooden hand grip. That's entirely accurate to the blast tech. And that fits very snugly into his holster. Issues. Got a couple with this particular Han. One of them is the crotch area looks kind of clumsy. And obviously this is kind of a gunslinger outfit, so it's going to be quite difficult to get this looking just right. But it's very obvious action figure concessions made there with the ball jointed legs. So there, the pelvis does not look fantastic. The barrel on the blast tech is drooping, so that it always makes, it does not look particularly flattering when Han's holding it. So the barrel's drooping and the sight's travelling upwards ever so slightly. There's the jacket problem I mentioned before. It's very stiff, but if you move the arms up, you can see this great big patch underneath of his shirt, where they've given him freedom of arm movement, but the patch is cream-coloured like the shirt, so it looks like he's wearing a vest, a gilet, like Han Solo in Star Wars and Jedi, not a jacket like Han Solo in Empire and Force Awakens. This is a baffling problem. Like when they got to the final check stage and they tilted his arms up and went, "Yep, this is fine," as opposed to, "Can we just paint this section brown?" It doesn't make any sense that they wouldn't decide to do that. It wouldn't look fantastic if you ripped the jacket section off, but it'd have brown sleeves anyway. You're not supposed to do that. That one's baffling. Don't know why they didn't do that. It means that he can never tilt his arms upwards without that great big cream patch showing. It breaks the magic of the action figure and feeling like you're holding a little version of Han Solo. Other issues include the head join problem I mentioned earlier, and this is one that actually doesn't relate to the figure itself, but the movie, because they decided to give Han an old faded brown jacket, an old faded brown jeans, and old faded brown boots. There's no colour to him. It was a deliberate decision on their part. They've made him look more like Ben Kenobi because he's playing the Sage in this movie, so he has those Jedi colours. But because of that, this figure looks kind of drab. Which I suppose it kind of should, Because if he had the dark blue Empire jacket on, he would look more vibrant. He would just look like a haggard version of Han from Empire. There has been a philosophical change in Han Solo over the years in between. So that's not a problem with the figure. It's not really a problem with the film at all. In fact, I really appreciate the decision to do that. But if you have access to paints, you like customization, or you're just a pretty good painter, you might want to add those darker patches underneath Han's arms there, so that he can point his blaster upwards without you seeing this great big ring of cream. So I'm going to give him a 7, taking a point off for the underarms thing, a point off for the drooping blaster nozzle, the head split, the stiff jacket, the slight paint problems on the top of his hair. But he has a dignity to him. I love this version of Han Solo. I'm really pleased I've got him. So not as good as Finn or Phasma, but definitely one I'm pleased I got hold of. ActionFigureResource now has a Patreon. This allows you to pledge your support for our ongoing archive of info and entertainment for the serious action figure collector. We'll keep on putting out multiple videos per month, and those will increase if we hit our higher goals. There are 3 main tiers you need to know about. Bronze is basically everything that's freely available on YouTube. These will be fun, short videos like top 10s, figure reviews, and our many interviews. But if you're on our Patreon at the bronze level, you can also talk with the community, get updates every time something new launches, and vote in our polls. Silver is for if you want something more in-depth. Here is where you'll find our collector guides and histories. And gold is where you can access our deluxe collector guides, which go into even more detail on some of the most popular and important lines. This level also grants access to our digital magazine archive. If you pick the level above this, then as one of our special sponsors, you can get your name listed in the credits of the videos for that month. And if you've always wanted to see an action figure line covered by us, well, you can commission that too at our premium sponsor level. The ActionFigureResource Patreon. We're here to help you find the toys you want.